after Obama released his U.S. birth certificate.
Do you accept that President Obama was born in the United States, is non-Muslim?
I really don't know. Early in 2016, Trump ridiculously suggested Senator Ted Cruz's father was involved in the JFK assassination.
This is nuts. This is not a reasonable position. This is just kooky.
Recently, Trump wondered about the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
It's a horrible topic, but they found a pillow in his face, which is a pretty unusual place to find a pillow.
Authorities said he died in his sleep of natural causes.
And amid the conspiracies, there is perhaps some clarity right now, with one source telling CNN that they believe that Epstein was alone in his cell, and the guards weren't checking on him every 30-minute test required. As for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, they've declined to comment. Paula Sandoval, CNN, New York.
And we've got some news just in on that story. An autopsy has been performed on the body of Jeffrey Epstein. We will bring you the results of that when they come to hand. Well, the president, sharing the conspiracy theory on social media, has drawn criticism from both sides of the aisle. His former White House communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, is firing back at the president about his actions, and even his own attorney general is calling for an investigation. For more, I'm joined by Brian Corinne, a senior political analyst based in Washington. He's also the host of the podcast, Just Ask the Question. Good to have you with us, Brian. Certainly a lot to unpack. I want to first focus on that retweet by President Trump, accusing a former president of the United States of potentially being involved in the death of a man in custody. I just want to bring up this tweet because the president, having retweeted it, means that more than 4.5 million people have seen the video that that comedian has played, blaming the Clintons for the death, using the hashtag Clinton body count, which of course refers to another conspiracy theory about the Clintons having political opponents murdered back in the early 1990s. How can the US president get away with this? And can President Trump be sued for defamation?
Well, he won't be sued for defamation if he's not going to be impeached. But how can he get away with it? This is a stratagem this president has undertaken since he's been the president of the United States. It's part of his strategy to disenfranchise us, news people who present news. So his conspiracy theories speak to his base, and it muddies the water, it clouds the water, it makes you think about the things that he's always pushing about, the deep state and conspiracies that simply are not true. And he has as much link to Jeffrey Epstein as the Clintons do, and there are plenty of other powerful people. Now, it is legitimate to wonder what happened, because I've covered the criminal justice system for years, and going in, if they had to have a discussion about this being a very high-profile individual, and they need to make sure that he was going to survive. Now, obviously, there was a huge failure, but to leap from that to a conspiracy, including the Clintons, is not only irresponsible, but it's detrimental to the presentation, and it helps collapse the idea that we're disinterested third-party observers presenting news, and feeds into his narrative that it's all fake media unless he says something. So it's tough.
It certainly is, and clearly he is not being advised otherwise, because the White House counselor, Kellyanne Conway, was on television today in the U.S. defending him, saying, I think the president just wants everything to be investigated, which was kind of shocking, to say the least.
You have to understand, of course, who he's hired as his counselors. These are people that couldn't get a job at Barnum and Bailey selling you blue smoke and mirrors. I mean, these people are not credible by any stretch of the imagination. And Kellyanne Conway has her problems with a hashtag that we could go on and talk about forever. But the fact of the matter is, the people that he has advising him in communications are not qualified to be in the positions that they're in. So they're not going to give him very good information.
And you've also got former Republicans, former Republican speechwriter David Frum, writing in The Atlantic. I just want to bring up what he had to say. He said, accusing a former U.S. president of murder. It's incredible, it's appalling, it's humiliating. This presidency shames and disgraces the office every minute of every hour of every day. You have to wonder why the president would bother retweeting this. You mentioned earlier his ties to this convicted sex offender. Of course, we've seen the videos of President Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. We've seen them dancing together. We've seen them surrounded by women.
Yeah.
Is he trying to distance himself from him? Is that why he would
He
retweet
would
this?
rather have you looking at someone else other than himself, and that's everything that he does. Yeah, everything, all the lies that are perpetrated by this administration are simply to keep you from looking at him. He only wants you to look at him when it's beneficial to him. It's very narcissistic. He calls us fake news. He calls us the enemy of the people whenever we bring up the fact that his facts do not jive with the real world. We have long heard of alternative facts, and that's where this administration lives and breathes. The truth is fluid according to him, and it's always to his benefit to listen to him and ignore what you see and what you hear. So that's, again, all part of his strategy. Is very frightening, but it always plays to his base. He's always playing to the people who believe Donald Trump, who like Donald Trump, and he's hoping that those numbers will be solid enough to get him reelected next November.
All right, Brian Karim, we will talk again soon, no doubt. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, investors could get another reality check this week on just how much damage the US-China trade war is doing. The first marker comes as Germany gets ready to report GDP growth. Germany relies heavily on exporting to China and the US. Claire Sebastian has more.
The state of Europe's biggest economy will be in focus this coming week. Germany's second quarter growth figures are released on Wednesday, amid growing concerns it could be headed for a recession. Last week's data showed German industrial output fell sharply in June compared to the previous year. Investors will be closely watching corporate earnings from China and the US this week for clues as to how the US-China trade war is hitting home. Tencent and Cisco report quarterly earnings on Wednesday, followed by Walmart and Alibaba on Thursday. Retailers have warned that another round of tariffs on Chinese goods will probably mean higher prices for consumers. And Walmart earnings are under extra scrutiny. The company has seen increased pressure to stop gun sales after two recent mass shootings in the US, one of which took place at a Walmart. OPEC's monthly oil report is out at the end of the week as oil prices have tipped into a bear market amid concerns over global economic growth and oversupply. The report may offer clues as to whether the cartel will take action to support prices. And the US core inflation data will be released on Tuesday. A low number could ramp up pressure on the Fed for more interest rate cuts. Claire Sebastian, CNN, New York.
Well, K-pop boy band BTS is taking a break from performing. The young music stars announced they're taking their first hiatus since their debut in 2013. The group's management calls it a well-needed vacation to give the teen idols time to rest and recharge. There's no word yet on what they'll do with their free time, but fans are being encouraged to let the members enjoy their private time off. Well, still ahead on CNN today. First there was no rain, then there was way too much rain. We're going to have an update on the extreme weather hitting Asia.
Hey you, sorry you couldn't make it to the Philippines, but it's okay. We haven't been up to much. There's just no escape from the heat. All we do is take showers. We keep getting lost. We can't wait for the day to end. I'm kidding! We're having a blast. The only thing that would make it better is if you were here too.
Oh.
When President Trump inherited this war, he did not change the rules of engagement. church. This is CNN.
Welcome back to CNN Today. I'm Linda Kincaid. Let's get you straight to our top stories. North Korea is defending its latest launch of a short-range missile, with a senior official even referencing recent remarks from the US president to justify the move. It comes after the Korean Central News Agency reported that Kim Jong-un guided the test fire of a, quote, new weapon over the weekend. In Hong Kong, police and protesters faced off in a string of fresh clashes as police used tear gas again to warn the demonstrators to disperse in several districts. Despite warnings from Beijing, it was the 10th consecutive weekend of protests. In Norway, police are investigating Saturday's shooting at an Oslo mosque as a possible act of terrorism. Investigators say the suspect, described as a Norwegian man aged in his 20s, had expressed right-wing views online. The suspect has been charged with murder after the body of his 17-year-old stepsister was found inside his home. A large typhoon that struck China has caused multiple deaths, widespread transport disruptions, and mass evacuations. And another potentially more destructive storm is headed towards Japan. As Cyril Vanier reports, that's just part of the extreme weather in Asia right now.
As powerful floodwaters surge around her, a woman trapped in her home is pulled to safety. It is another dramatic rescue in eastern China, where emergency crews are searching for stranded survivors in the aftermath of a deadly typhoon. As Lakima made landfall Saturday morning south of Shanghai, ominous skies signaled a catastrophic storm. More than 1 million people were evacuated, over 1,000 flights canceled, and those in rural areas were told to prepare. Soon after, the typhoon's torrential rains submerged entire villages, then triggered a deadly landslide that swept through parts of China's Zhejiang province, cutting electricity to millions and ravaging land, cars, and property, often with people still inside. Now, emergency crews battle to keep any more from dying, saving those trapped beneath rubble, in vehicles flooded with water or unable to leave their homes. China's state-run news agency reports Lakima is the 9th typhoon this year and the 4th in the past several days. It follows an increase in storms and weather systems across the region in recent weeks. From typhoons in the Western Pacific to deadly monsoon rains in southern Asia. In India, recent floods have reportedly killed dozens and displaced hundreds of thousands across the country. In Myanmar, a landslide buried a village in the east of the country after days of heavy rains. Rescue workers are now scrambling to find survivors as they pull bodies from the mud. Beneath the rubble, some have lost everything. One woman says her home disappeared in the landslide with all 9 of her family members inside. Cyril Vanier, CNN.
Well, Tom Sater joins us more on all of this. Certainly heartbreaking, devastating scenes we're seeing there.
I mean, it's just everywhere right now. In Myanmar, they've been hit week after week after week with rainfall. It's just not letting up. This is in Yi Township. This is just to the east of Yangon. And unfortunately, authorities are now telling us the death toll's up to 53, not just from the inundation of the river waters over their banks, but of course in the landslide. And that's where most of the fatalities have occurred. So it's just a sad situation. And it goes on and on. I mean, this is not just the other area. This is where we had our typhoon make landfall, triggering a landslide here. This is in Wenzhou. We talked about it last week. We thought it would make landfall maybe as a strong Category 2 equivalent hurricane, but it was actually equivalent to a Category 3. Winds up to 187 kilometers per hour. Here's the history of the storm when you were with us last week, moving through the Ryukyu Islands, expecting it near Wenzhou, and then it moved through Shanghai and then closed down the airport. 3,200 flights canceled, back over water for a second landfall, and that was in Shandong province. Still, rainfall is going to get squeezed out of the system, northeast China, parts of the Korean Peninsula as well. But again, some of the numbers just to share with you: 5.1 million affected, 34,000 homes, can you believe that, are damaged, 173,000 hectares of cropland. And again, when you look at this, I mean, there's more to the story in just a moment. But now we've got Kurosa. Quickly, just to let you know, by the middle of this week, this tropical storm should get its act together, move toward now western Japan, and it could be a typhoon, we believe, by the time it makes landfall. Back to China, let's show you some of this video again, just to give give you more. The amount of people that were knocked out with power, 3.8 million lost power. 1.2 million were relocated. And again, 32 fatalities. That's the sad part of the story, with 16 missing. Economic losses, we believe, is $2.1 billion. Now, back to India. I want to show you that video as well. That we've got a problem there. Several states have lost loved ones this weekend. Let me start in southwest state of Kerala, 67 fatalities. Neighboring Karnataka, 19 missing, 34 dead. Maharashtra, 27. In Gujarat, 16. It's just amazing. 480,000 people had to be moved out of the flooding, 50,000 in livestock alone. And you can see this picture here is a landslide that's occurred. They have been way behind in rainfall for the monsoon. At one point, it started out late. It was about minus 44% devastating. Now it's up to where it should be, but we're just seeing too much flooding. And unfortunately, this is the way it looked about 2 weeks ago into last month. And now the flooding has moved into areas of Pakistan as well. We'd like to get a break from this rainfall, but it looks like it's going to continue for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll get a break somewhere, but just a terrible weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Hopefully you can bring some good news there soon. Thanks so much. Well, controversy is raging in the US over an immigration raid that even the government admitted was ill-timed so soon after a massacre targeting immigrants. We'll hear from America's top immigration enforcement official and hear what the Trump administration is planning next. You're watching CNN today.
All new Inside Africa. Unlocking the mysteries behind the continent you thought you knew. In Eswatini, a music festival helps young performers hone their skills to take center stage.
The hunger is there and the talent is there. It's abundant.
Inside Africa, Tuesday on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
If you guys, coming to my show, please take off the shoes. It's much better to enjoy it for that, this comfortable feeling. This show, Murakami versus Murakami, is one decade my history. If the audience came to this show, so very understanding for my background and what's going on right now, my vision. Each room having my different my identity, but like when I'm making for the museum show, is mostly focusing for the how can making entertaining.
Welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're going to begin with the politics lead, and one of the biggest bombshells today, the straight talk you need. That seems to be, to me, completely contradicting from you, a man in Washington. It's all food for thought when you and the public are trying to decide who to trust, who won't back down. We're getting a new look at the headwinds that congressional Republicans already are facing. A monumental day in our politics.
The Lead with Jake Tapper, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
Welcome back. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is slamming recent immigration raids in Mississippi, calling them immorality. Immigrant enforcement agents last week detained 680 workers at 7 food processing plants across the state. On Sunday, Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan acknowledged that the timing of the raids was unfortunate, given the emotional state of the nation just days after 2 deadly mass shootings. But he defended the actions.
Now, you and the president said just a few weeks ago that the pending ICE raids coming down the pike were going to be focused on violent criminals. That's not what happened here in Mississippi. Why not?
Well, so first of all, I never said that the raids, as you call it, will focus on violent criminals. I've never said that. And also, I think words matter. These aren't raids. These are targeted law enforcement operations. And in this case, this was a joint criminal investigation with ICE and the Department of Justice targeting worksite enforcement, meaning companies that knowingly and willfully hire illegal aliens so that in most cases they can pay them reduced wages, exploit them further for their bottom line. That's what this investigation was about, a criminal investigation.
Well, CNN's Nick Valencia has more on what's next for those hundreds of immigrants.
680 undocumented immigrants detained on the outskirts of Jackson, Mississippi. All workers from food processing plants in what the U.S. Attorney here called the largest single state operation in ICE history.
Now, while we are a nation of immigrants, more than that, we are first and foremost a nation of laws.
An ICE spokesman told CNN the raids were part of a broader federal criminal investigation into these companies, and probable cause affidavits obtained by CNN showed the U.S. Department of Justice looking for things like identity fraud and whether owners of the raided plants followed protocol to ensure they were not hiring undocumented labor.
My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
Caught in the middle, hundreds of children separated from their parents. Some of the adults were taken first to a National Guard hangar, others sent to ICE facilities in neighboring states.
The administration tells CNN that all children have been either reunited with their parents or family members. One family that we spoke to here says a 3-year-old who is currently with family members has not been able to get in touch with her mother. They believe that she's currently being held at an ICE detention facility in Gina, Louisiana.
It's unclear just how many of the immigrants were parents. Locals estimate up to half, but ICE could not corroborate. An ICE official did say that almost half of those detained were released, most with pending court dates.
Government, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please. Don't leave the jobs with kindness and everything.
Towns like Morton, Mississippi, the site of one of the raids, are now ghost towns. Residents tell CNN local Latino-owned businesses are closing early, while others are afraid to go outside altogether. Some residents saying it feels like a funeral.
What's it feel like knowing somebody that you love, your aunt, was detained and was caught in these raids?
I don't want to say it's hate, but it's really there's no way to understand it. Yeah, there's not a way to understand it. I feel like you have to experience it to know.
The anxiety is so pervasive that more than a quarter of the Latino students in a local district did show up for school on Thursday, the day after the raids. And on Friday, the entire school district went on lockdown after it received what it described as suspicious phone calls, causing more fear in a community that's already shaken.
And that fear may soon become a reality if the White House gets its way. According to a senior immigration official, the Trump administration has directed more of this workplace-type enforcement this year, asking local ICE field offices to identify potential targets in their regions. Nick Valencia, CNN, Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, there's much more on this story on our website, including a look at how children are coping after their immigrant parents were taken by Homeland Security. That address is CNN.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Linda Kincaid. World Sport is coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Grow your media business at 2454 Abu Dhabi, your gateway to the Middle East and North Africa. Home to over 470 businesses across production, gaming, digital, advertising, and more. Enjoy 0% corporate tax, 30% cashback rebate on productions, a full suite of media services, and state-of-the-art facilities on our media campus. With 0 license and registration fees for your first 2 years, our business development team will guide you through our simple setup process to get your business up and running. Our community provides access to world-class services and facilities inside a thriving media ecosystem, ensuring your success. So get in on the action at the Capital for Content Creators. Join us at 2454.com/join.
I've
Thanks for joining us and welcome to City World Sport. I'm Patrick Snell. The new look Manchester United is up and running in the most emphatic way possible. Our opening start from the Red Devils on Sunday against a Chelsea team that was ultimately swept aside on a weekend to forget for Blues legendary head coach Frank Lampard, a revered former player, of course, making his Premier League managerial debut. And on Sunday at Old Trafford, Harry Maguire, the world's most expensive defender, making his United debut and inspiring his team to a clean sheet as well. First half was fairly even. Chelsea didn't take their chances. Marcus Rashford, it turns out, well, he doesn't miss penalties. With striker Romelu Lukaku now gone, the idea is that Rashford and the likes of Anthony Martial step up to the plate. The Frenchman has clearly read the script. Seconds later, 2 became 3. Chelsea went to sleep and then to pieces. Rashford again, cool as you like. Now, the Red Devils were far from done, though, and what a moment for young Welsh debutant Daniel James, another of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's new young recruits. You can see just what it means to him. United 4-0 winners, their biggest win at home over these opponents in more than half a century.
As I said to the boys before the game, we have found a way that we want to play, that we believe in, that they've made us as coaches believe in, and just go out and do the same. And we took risks, I know, but that's the way here. You've got to go for it. And I thought it's a risk and reward, and today we were rewarded.
All right, well, let's bring in London-based football expert Mark Bolton, who watched all the action unfold. Big statement of intent, I will submit, Mark, from Manchester United. Harry Maguire, man of the match too. Not bad for your debut, right? Early days, I know, but what impressed you most about the new look Manchester United?
Well, the way they hung in there, and that's what Solskjaer said post-game, wasn't it, Pat? He said we had to hang in there in the first half. He said we were sloppy, we weren't up to it. We needed time out at half-time to relax and compose ourselves. But second half, he said, we were outstanding. And when they got going, Manchester United were impressive. How good the opposition were, how Chelsea really set themselves up will be questioned post-game. But United got it done. I mean, the positives, yeah, we saw they are an effective counter-attacking side, and that's the way Solskjaer likes to play, maybe with Lindelof and Maguire. They can play out better from the back, and they're more adept at that. We saw Paul Pogba look engaged and instrumental at various times. That was a real key importance for them. What else? Daniel James, a nice goal for him on his debut. That was nice to see for the young Welshman. And I guess the clean sheet was absolutely imperative too. Harry Maguire, you mentioned him, man of the match, MVP. He said when they were 2 and 3 up, we knew we only kept 2 clean sheets at home at Old Trafford last season, and we were determined to keep another. He admitted they were poor in the first half too, but he was impressed, I think, with the way they turned it around and showed mental strength. Yeah. That maybe was the key today.
Yeah, he also referenced a bit of a nerves as well on the first day back at Old Trafford, but a really, really big statement of intent, as I say, from United. Word on Chelsea, real baptism of fire for the Blues' new head coach, right, Frank Lampard. What happened out there to his team?
Poor Frank. He's 41, he looks good for 41, but I saw him age, didn't you? As the game crept on, as the goals started to go in. Jose Mourinho was looking on, the former Chelsea and Manchester United boss. He commented post-match, he thought that Chelsea just weren't compact enough when defending. He said they were too expansive. There was a sense that they were just too naive. They had their own game plan and didn't anticipate the turnover of the ball enough. Things that Frank Lampard will know, and when he assesses will look to put straight. Lampard said he felt it was harsh. He was right. He said Chelsea dominated for 60 minutes. He was right. He felt on another day they could have got something out of the game. It's a really tough start for them. That lack of wisdom they showed can be offset against the fact that key players were not available. So things will improve, but they'll have to improve quickly. Super Cup next, of course, and Chelsea, let's be honest, Pat, they're not aiming for the title. They're way behind the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City. It's top 4 a game, and it will be tight, I think, between United and Chelsea to see who takes that final spot potentially this season.
We'll see. Intriguing. All right, thanks to Mark Bolton there. Well, you know, it's been a really difficult, painful, highly emotional weekend we've got to tell you about for the American tennis great Serena Williams. The title she wanted may have proved elusive, but just wait till you see the heartwarming gesture her Canadian opponent had in mind for her, and indeed the whole story behind it too.
everyday life. What I would like to do is inspire other people to take on their own Everest.
It's a very unique environment to be in. There's a lot of emotion here right now. It was such a letdown.
The journey continues.
It's a bit scary.